So initially, well, first of all, when I went in there, of course, I had several versions of what I thought a main title would be, and I ended up going further with the one that's in either 6/8 or a 12/8 feel, a triplet feel. But there was one that was more in the 4/4 feel. But the idea is that we would always have umbube in the main title, which is a whole licensing situation and blah 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 blah. And this question whether or not we would add "Lion Sleeps Tonight" to it. So in the original film, it starts off with "Oh, and it's in 4/4, and then we have some sound effects from the voice, and we have some improv. I said, okay, that idea, like we got to have voices. It has to. We're gonna fly over Zamunda and all that stuff. So we're gonna start with the idea of using those elements for sure, but we're gonna add everything we can to it and really celebrate. So I started off with a big percussion loop, basically, and each one of these things that I tried all had kind of the same ensemble. It was just different feels to the piece. But then for me, and I can, elaborate, but I thought, first of all, there's some elements, like you said, there's a lot of ear candy in this. I was put in touch with a guy named Adekunle Gold, who is an artist in his own right in Africa. And someone, when we did our In Vogue recording sessions, one of their old managers said, "Yeah, I got this contact in Africa. He's an artist, and if you need him, just contact him." I said, I don't know. He said to maybe do it, so I'm definitely going to do it. Just try things. Like, that was the spirit of this movie, is literally experimentation and trying ideas the entire time. So I got his info. We talked. I sent him some phrases in English, like, I think I'm falling in love. I will be king. I will be queen. Welcome to the motherland. And for the opening, I had this idea. I had several different vocal. Ikabo si elewa is basically Yoruba for welcome to the motherland, which you also hear in the next cue, just after the main title when they're at McDowell's. It's just an upbeat Ikabo si elewa. I'm not singing the right thing, but anyway, I just, and I mocked up all the vocal, demos instead of playing them in and having them sound like, I sang every part, which is something, David, I've seen you do so beautifully over the years. You never know who you're learning from. But I just, I need to be a very vivid version of what it might be. Of course, I'll replace the vocals later, but so at a certain point, that intro was like 4 minutes, and then they were walking through the palace. They were walking through this room. They were walking through that room. And so I needed to extend it. And so instead of just starting off with it, I came up with this. Okay, let's have and I just had this kind of feel that I would like have an intro, and then by the time we see our main title, we get the big, the big crash, the triangle, everything. And also a quote from the first movie that was improv, sang by our dear friend, Larry Walker, which I recorded almost a year and a half ago. So crazy that was able to stay in there like that. But it just really worked. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, instead of just the mbube, which is which I put it in a 6/8 or a 12/8 feel. When we see the rose garden and the roses being dropped and clipped and all that, I started to reharm this little moment to have some color and jazz, and basically, throw. Like I said, it lets the audience. This is my first, elaborate main title on a bigger stage. So I thought, okay, in these cases, generally you're inviting the audience to the world and some of the sounds that they're going to hear. So I thought, let's go straight in with reharms here and there, some color and modulate, but then come back to the original key, things like that, right off the bat in our first cue. So that gives me liberty. If I get away with the studio listening to all this, it's got to go through Eddie's ears, the director. Then that lets me know I can maybe do some of these things later in the film, as opposed to all of a sudden being super colorful. Because some things, if you haven't done that early on, it takes you out of it, later, or, maybe it's jarring in a good way. But anyway,
Wow.
Oh, someone's asking, was there a mandate to use Pan-African? I didn't see the whole question, but I'm guessing that that's what they're saying. And yes, there's a certain point later in the movie in the coronation, once the character Lavelle achieves his princely task to prove himself worthy of being prince. Um, they talked about having instruments on stage. And it's funny, like they were going to have, a live band, and they talked about jazz. So I wrote about 6 or 7 jazz quartet pieces. Everything I wrote was everyone was copied on everything. Everyone's hearing everything. And it just seemed wrong for the movie to now be doing jazz combo music in Africa. And I got out my saxophone, I started demoing all these things, and I was thinking, anyway, that quickly went away. And so the idea of what kind of instruments do we have that we can mock up, that we can also have on set was the question. What actors do we have in Atlanta, which is where they filmed, that have these instruments? The kora was one instrument that we wanted to visually show. It's a visual thing. There's so many little nuggets of, I'm seeing these little memes of things and pieces of costume that were worn in different parts of the, of the continent of Africa for different reasons. Also, some wooden flutes I thought might be a visual thing that's kind of clear. And of course, it's so interesting when you're shooting with some people that are more musician than actor, that don't know that you need to actually hold the flute up to your mouth while you're filming. So a lot of those shots actually, sometimes you see them from behind jamming to it. And I thought, at the end of the day, let's have this be a produced version of that. So there's loops and things playing. And I said, let's pretend that these guys are playing live, but with a track. So we can get away with doing a little bit more. So it's not just the super small chamber thing to fill out this super expensive looking scene.
Del says he heard maybe 4 timpani in that live combo. I know the scene he's talking about. I'll see if I can find it because that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on. There's also, I used a lot of timpani in a way that I normally wouldn't in the very end scene where the song To Be Loved is happening, because the timpani is exaggerating his motion. So it's almost comedic, to have him playing the way he did, but also mocking that up so that we had control of all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the main title, if that answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that just strikes me is you are a composer of great imagination, and this project really met you where you were at. Because for anybody who's seen the movie, like everything in the kitchen sink is in this movie.
To get through it.
There's drama, there's comedy, there's gospel, there's jazz.